Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Divine Transmissions with Janet, a broadcast from Living Astrology. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax so we can chat about the biggest news in the universe right now, which is about Jupiter's move into Gemini, which is what today's show is going to be all about. But before we get there, how many of you, raise your hand, saw the beautiful red star next to the moon, right? The full moon, the less than full moon now, because just a little bit of it has been shaved off because the full moon was actually yesterday morning. But the star Antares, which is a red giant in the constellation of Scorpio, right? So because of precession of the equinoxes, the full moon is in the zodiac sign of Sagittarius, but was actually sitting in the constellation of Scorpio, very near to the red star Antares. And what a beautiful night, right? Well, here it was a bit cloudy, but we we did get to see the full moon rising last evening, and then all of a sudden it disappeared, and I went, "Oh, darn, we're not gonna get to see the whole thing." But then Tom reminded me this morning to tell everybody about the star that was next to it because he asked me the question, "What is that star that is right next to the moon?" And Antares is an interesting star as it is, well, there's lots of lore and mythology surrounding that particular star. But in galactic astrology, we look at Antares as one of the gateways of entry into our solar system. So there are gateways where other life forms, let's say, or travelers from distant galaxies can enter into our galaxy. And the star of Antares, as well as Aldebaran and the galactic center, of course, are these gateway stars, right? Aldeb being in Taurus and Antares in the sign of or constellation of Scorpio. So gateway energies, right? So right there, the moon aligning itself with not only with Antares, but also the sun aligned with Antares and as well the earth in the alignment there as well. So, I wonder what that means that we are in the process of receiving from that wonderful moon. And I can tell you guys, it was a powerful full moon. I wondered yesterday because the moon actually was full at 6:53 a.m. our time on the West Coast yesterday morning. So what's that, 9:53 for those of you watching, on the East Coast. And at that time, I was getting ready for my day and I was in a foul mood, quite frankly. I was like, "Where is my happy place today?" It was totally gone. And, then I had to do a realignment, right? I had to realign myself. Do you guys ever get yourself in that situation where you just are in a foul mood for no particular reason? Actually, the cat had barfed on my carpet. That started it, right? She threw up on my carpet, and my husband, in his infinite wisdom, had just thrown a towel over it so that we didn't step in it, but he didn't clean it up. So that started my mood, right? And it was kind of funny when you think about it because she had done it in the middle of the night. So I started my day yesterday cleaning carpets, and maybe that contributed to the mood. But then I went, okay, I am the one in control here. It took a while, but then I was able to tap into what the goodness is in that full moon in Sagittarius, right? We went through all of that on Monday during the show, so I don't want to go back through it today. But remember, it was a full moon where expansion and travel and connecting to the higher properties or higher self, the higher spiritual self was all very much in our awareness. And I had to go through that process, and then about, let's see, I guess it was about 9 AM, maybe a little later, I heard some really good news from my oldest daughter, and I was over the moon, and that helped me to change that mood. So it was an interesting day from the moods, right? So I want to hear from you guys. You can put your comments in and let's see how you all were feeling at the beginning of that full moon. And did something change through the day that made it feel a little bit better to you? Now, this morning, the moon is still in Sagittarius. And in fact, we have a Sagittarius moon until 9. Oh, God, I need new glasses. Holy cow. What does that say? It says 3:23 a.m. tomorrow. Knocked my camera off tomorrow morning, and then no, 8:36 a.m. There we go. And then it shifts into the sign of Capricorn. So we get down to business, right? The down to business piece comes later tomorrow. Interesting on a 3-day weekend here in the USA. Um, what are we going to get down to the business of? Well, relaxation, having some fun. Um, I don't know what your plans are, but it should be something kind of fun. Let's see, everybody. Good morning to Pam Zaruba, Christine Buckingham, Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel, TD Hawk. Good morning from the Catskills, she says. Soul Strategy Therapy. Happy Friday to all. Teddy Hickox, Morning Stargazers, Comet Chasers, and Planet Plowing Pacers. Wow. Say that 10 times fast. I wouldn't be able to do it. Julie, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. I haven't seen you live with us in a long time. Happy birthday month, Janet, and all the other Geminis. Thank you very much. And Terry Lee Strauss, oh, my mood and grandson were really bad. I am so happy, Terry. Not that I'm happy you were in a bad mood, but I was thinking, why am I in such a bad mood over this? Right? It was really hard to let go too. It's like a dog with a bone, and I didn't want to let go of it. Grr. And then whew, it went, thankfully, right? But it was a while. It took me some time. TD Hawk says, yes, realignment days. And she totally understands. Terry Lee Strauss says, but a reflector. Indeed. You know, Terry is our resident reflector, psychic medium. She's my go-to girl when I am going nuts with my family or with things that are happening in my life. And she is a reflector. She is the one that can show us from her relative health, her relative well-being, how we are all doing, because all she can really do is reflect the transits of the planets and the planets, the human designs of the people around her, right? And what the transit planets are doing with that. TD Hawk says, beginning high energy up at dawn and got a lot done, then exhausted the rest of the day. Oh, interesting. Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel, I had this wave come over me to get skunked, so I did and went to bed. Joan Durchie, good morning to you. Christine Azola, my cat threw up too. See, our animals also feel these energies, right? Have you ever noticed that? How your animals might change based on what the moon is doing, or when there's big, upsets, things going on in the stars, they're also being impacted by it. But they're not necessarily reflectors, but they do reflect back to us quite often our own emotions, our own ill at easeness, or whatever's happening with us. Our animals will help reflect that to us. So, cats throwing up for no reason in particular. Good morning to you, Jacqueline. TD Hawk said just had to rest the rest of the day, went to bed and read. Um, no, not me. So here's what's funny. My husband had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and then we had to go run down to Everett, which, if any of you live in Washington that are listening, to go from Skagit County to Everett at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is like an insane thing to do because of the traffic. Not so much getting to Everett, but getting back north to where I live from Everett. And I was literally driving down to Everett praying, that there'll be ease and grace on the way home. And it went magically, right? The trip home was so magical. Just sort of, even though we hit traffic, you can't help it. By the time we were heading home, it was 5 o'clock, right? You can't help it. It's traffic time. But it was an amazing experience to sort of, pray into the energy that I wanted to experience, which was ease and grace in the traffic, and to be able to experience that on the way home. It was pretty funny. So, anyway, anybody else's experiences of the full moon, if you want to share them here, please do so. I will go back and read comments after a bit. But the biggest news, of course, on the whole of the universe at the moment is Jupiter's move out of Taurus and into Gemini for the next year, beginning tomorrow afternoon. Now, for some of you, it's at 4:14 my time, 7:14 for those of you on the East Coast, and so in between 4 and 7 for the rest of you. And if you are listening to me from Europe, it may be actually into the next day before you get the planet Jupiter into Gemini. Now, the most impactful thing that I can say to you over this move is that, and it wouldn't matter if Jupiter was moving into Aquarius or Capricorn, whatever. Jupiter really represents your inner guru, right? Your inner wise man, your inner wise woman. And whatever sign that Jupiter is moving through, or whatever house in your chart that Jupiter is moving through, he tends to either stir up things, right, from the depths, things that are left yet unevolved in your life. And that might be emotions, it could be relationships, it could be your job, your health, your blah, 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 right? Anything in your life, so that you will consciously apply growth strategies and so forth to your life and grow through the things that are concerned with that sign he is in. And he'll be in the sign of Gemini, an air sign. So right away, air, we know we're dealing with intellect, we're dealing with communication, we're dealing with all of the things to do with the mind, and as well commerce and travel and so forth. You have the short distance travel sign with the long distance travel planet in it. So, travel, a key theme during this next year. And we're going to break these things down a bit, and I will not necessarily get to what the impact will be for each sign today. But I am in the process of writing up a document for all of you so you can see what the impact, the personal impact. We'll maybe get a few blurbs out about it today, but more in depth for you coming in the near future. So, if we look at the planet Jupiter, it is the largest planet in our solar system. It is so large that he is actually sort of considered, from an astronomical term, as the cosmic vacuum cleaner in our solar system. Because he holds such a large gravitational pull, he's actually a sort of protector in our solar system, protecting many of the planets from major impacts from asteroids, comets, and etc. Right? He almost has a drawing effect, a magnetic effect. Now, that doesn't mean that, some comets and asteroids get past him, right, and get to the sun or get to the earth, even in some cases. But if we didn't have Jupiter in our solar system, we would all be blasted far more than we are with cosmic visitors, right? The things that plow into our universe. So Jupiter, from an astronomical point of view, is very protective. So from an astrological view, then there's also that protection. Now, I wouldn't normally set out to say, okay, Jupiter is your protector, but there is a sense with Jupiter of good fortune and luck that kind of travels along with him. And maybe that luck comes from protection, right? Protection from some of the big whatevers in our world, in our lives, but also the gaining of wisdom from the experiences that we do have. So kind of goes hand in hand with this protection, with this force for conscious evolution. And I say conscious evolution because the opportunity, of course, is to take everything that's coming in, whether it is something happy or whether it's not so happy, and to be able to see how it can be a tool for your conscious evolution, for your growth, right? Growth. Jupiter, of course, represents abundance. So there's this idea of fortune and abundance and great plenty. But now, with any sign and any planet, there's also the opposite side, right? We don't live in a singular universe. We live in a dual universe, or at least a living on a dual planet. Perhaps not all the planets in the universe are dual, but we are. And Gemini is a dual sign. So we have duality, duality, right? We're living in a duality planet or a polarized planet, and we have energy now coming through a dual sign. So, or a sign of polarities, right? Twins, right? The good twin and the evil twin, right? All right in the mix. So, do we think that we're only going to have really positive experiences during this transit, this year that Jupiter spends in Gemini? Yeah, not likely, right? Because sometimes that uglier side is going to rear its head. And we're going to go through each of the positives and the negatives, but one of the big, negatives that I think of with Jupiter is overindulgence, overdoing it, overplaying your hand, overstating your skills, over committing to something, your time, your energy, your money. So we'll have to all watch this in the next year because we may vacillate between the two extremes, plenty and not plenty, right? So, and that can be, monetary. It can be the ability to use your energy, like some of us have been feeling high one day, low the next day, wake up excited, exhilarated, and happy, and get ready and energetic. And a few hours later, here we are down here at the bottom again. So we're going to have to find ways to create balance, even though Jupiter and Gemini are not necessarily signs of balance, but we're going to have to do it. It's going to be plain in our faces sometimes that we're going to need to go through this process. So, um, now we're moving from Taurus's, Jupiter and Taurus's grounded, earthy energy into the more Gemini, airy, intellectual realm. So the biggest shift is going to be that we are moving from the practical, stable, secure to the flights of fancy, to the scattered energy, perhaps to new ideas and things like that that come in. So it is a pretty significant change. Now, that's because neighboring signs, Taurus and Gemini are neighbors, they're totally different, right? They don't have the same element. They don't have the same mode of operating. Taurus was a fixed sign. Gemini is a mutable sign. Right? So in Taurus, our ability to change was being muted somewhat by the fact that it likes and craves stability and security, and comfort zone is important. Now we move to Gemini energy where the comfort zone is not what we want. It isn't in our best interest to be in a comfort zone. So the pursuit of ideas and opportunities that lie outside of our comfort zone will be presented to us. And whether we take those up or not really depends on where it is in your chart. And by the way, I hope to get through this information and maybe spend the last 10 or 15 minutes today looking at your charts. So be thinking about whether you want me to do that, but it won't be. Don't start giving me your birth information yet, because I'll lose it in the chat stream. But I hope to get to doing that today. So when we look at the general themes that are going to be presented to all of us at this moment in time, one is the fact Jupiter is ruled by Mercury. So we have this Mercury, the planet of communication, of intellectual pursuits. It's a very mind oriented sign. And so we are presented with the opportunity for intellectual expansion. That's a big theme here, and that it's associated with how we speak to one another, what we speak, what we learn, what we share of our knowledge and wisdom. And Jupiter's presence in Gemini is going to amplify that effect, right? It's an amplifier and promoting our thirst for knowledge, perhaps, our desire to engage in diverse subjects. And diverse learning experiences, right? Wanting to experience it at all. Gemini energy goes out broad. It doesn't necessarily go down deep. That would be Sagittarius, but it goes out broad. So we are picking up bits and pieces of things all around our interests. And this is a time then for us to explore new ideas and to engage in conversations with people that have a stimulating effect on us and to broaden, if you will, your intellectual horizons, right? To see things from all the sides, to explore the different um, things out there, ideas, projects, whatever it is that you're interested in. Go for it, right? Go looking for it. Now, Gemini is also a sign that's known for adaptability and versatility. So, with Jupiter in this sign, there's a boost in our ability to juggle multiple things, multiple interests, multiple activities. Now, if you're a manifesting generator out there, this is going to come very naturally to you, right? This will be maybe ramping up even some of the busy energy. And you'll need to watch that you are only taking up causes or projects or activities that are really close to your heart and that are in your outer world. You're not just jumping at everything, right? No, the tendency is gonna be that we all wanna jump at the ideas that come in. But if you're a manifesting generator or a generator even, you're gonna need to wait until you have something in your outer world to respond to. Your strategy becomes very protective here. If you are, one of the other types, say a projector or manifester, or as Terry is, a reflector, Terry Strauss, that is, you're going to have to be very watchful that all of this incoming energy doesn't scatter your focus or cause you to leap into and out of things at light speed, which then exhausts you, right? You want to watch that. But this period encourages us to be flexible and to be open minded and to be willing to adapt to the changing circumstances on the landscape of your life, right? To be willing to be adaptable. And of course, we can't forget the general theme of communication and networking. This is huge here. Gemini enhances our communication skills and our network opportunities. Networking, meaning maybe in person events where you meet new people, or online events, or networking through social medias, that type of thing. Now, there is a lot of talk right now out there in the world. Uh, I think it's politically motivated to break up Facebook, to break up Google, and some of these, big places of information that we get. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out during this next year with Jupiter in Gemini, basically the ruler of that sector of our lives. And on top of that, Jupiter is, are we looking at, have they grown too large, right? Are they too big to manage? And is breaking up those companies to the advantage of the public. So it'll be an interesting, say, watch for those kinds of news. But it is also in the same vein, this is an excellent time for collaborative projects, working with other people, going into networking events, and just enhancing your communication strategies. Like, how am I going to, especially if you are someone who's in the work world and you are a communicator, how am I going to communicate and get my message out there to the world? This is also a general theme, curiosity, right? Curiosity, exploration, Gemini and Jupiter's expansive tendencies look for new things, new information. There's the potential of expanding our cultural energies, are leading to a heightened interest perhaps in subjects that are different from what you would normally study, or different cultures and things like that, different places. I'd already said this was definitely going to be a travel sort of energy. So, travel, both short and long, it can be particularly rewarding at this time as we are prompted to explore, see different places, go to different things. So things like museums and short distance travel to places that you don't normally go to, or long distance travel through the Jupiter connection that take you into different cultures or different experiences with different cultures. And it can be different languages. This is a perfect time to learn a different language if you're so inclined. All right. So those are kind of our general themes. That means almost everybody will experience those things in some way, shape, or form. But now, how does this translate into you personally? Like, what are the personal impacts? Now, of course, that's going to be dependent in large part on how your chart is set up. Where is Gemini in your chart? If you have your chart with you, then look at that because that's going to tell you what the house is that this Gemini energy, this Jupiter and Gemini energy is going to be playing out. In my own chart, it's playing out in the 12th house. That gave me pause yesterday too when I was like, ugh. Like, if I could hand choose a place, that probably would have been the house. Um, but it is what it is. So we're going to, I know that I'm going to be dealing with things from the underside of things, right? The introspection, um, the dynamic of seeing the unseen, right? Or being in the invisible realm. And anyway, personal impacts. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is about career and professional growth. And that's because Jupiter in Gemini really favors careers where we're involved with communication, the media, education, and technology. Well, that just about covers everything, right? Out there. So it's a great time to pursue the opportunities out there for yourself that require you to learn some new skills, to elevate the skills that you already have, to engage in a new way in your career or your chosen work or your avocation or in your life in some realm, right? Not everybody out there is working. So, how can you embrace something new that adds to your personal authority? Or what you see as your personal success. And then, of course, adaptability and effective communication go right hand in hand with that whole idea. Now, relationships and your social life. Gemini is a social sign. It's an air sign. It favors communication and interactions, right, with people. So, our the potential for each one of us on a personal level is that the opportunities for increased social interactions happens, and then increased networking opportunities. Maybe we're, sending out our tendrils of influence to new people, right? To people that we've not been aligned with before, or there's opportunities to create new relationships. And in fact, relationships may benefit during this time from improved communication and a more open minded approach. Now, let's talk about communication for 1 second because it's a two-way street. Communication isn't just me talking to you, it is my ability to listen to you as well. I can't really be effective at communicating unless I'm doing this is a broadcast, right? So I'm communicating. I don't really have the input so much from others where I need to listen. But if this were a conversation between me and, say, one of you as a client, 50% of what I would have to do is listen, right? And then the other 50% would be communication. So be thinking about that in all of your relationships. Are you doing all the talking, never listening? Or are you always the listener and never get to talk, right? We got to balance those things. It's a favorable time for making new friends and expanding your social networks. So, who might you meet during this next year that has an influence on you through the mind, through your education, etc.? Now, having said education, education and learning is another big focus in our personal lives. Jupiter in Gemini is ideal for expanding our knowledge, our wisdom, gaining more insight into the things that we know. Sometimes this could be if you were born with Jupiter in Gemini, then you might be what we would call a lifelong learner. Um, but this is a great time for all of us to become learners, maybe enroll in new courses, attend workshops, engage in activities that stimulate your mind, right? And broaden your knowledge. right? It's not just about, can I learn more about these very narrow subjects? It's broader than that. This is Jupiter, broad, right? Big, the bigger picture of whatever subject, or the bigger picture of a broad number of subjects, a wide range of subjects. And it is a good time for personal development. So, on a personal level, this transit encourages us to grow through learning, through curiosity. And it's a time to embrace new ideas and to challenge our existing beliefs. I've had a dose of that this week myself. What are my beliefs? Um, let's reframe that as in, what is the story? Right? What is your story? That all of us have stories that are being told, right? That are based on something that happened likely years ago. I came across a story in my own life that was from when I was 4, maybe 5 years old. The story's still ruling my life, right? So this is a great time for us to explore that, to embrace and challenge the story. Embrace the story first, because if you don't recognize it's operating, then boo, you can't do much with it. But once you recognize how it's operating, or that it is operating, then you can challenge that belief based on an old story, and then develop a more well-rounded perspective on life in general, but also in that personal part of your life. So, for us all personally, we have some particularly good energies for growth, expansion, knowledge, and wisdom over this next year. But of course, this wouldn't be balanced if we didn't talk about the potential challenges of Jupiter in Gemini. So, Gemini is already an energy that is air, and air cannot be contained, right? It's as soon as you try to contain air, the pressure builds, it can burst out of the container, right? It's everywhere, at least on this planet, it's everywhere, right? Air is infused in everything. It's in our very lungs, right? Air is what we breathe. If we didn't have air, we wouldn't survive. We couldn't live, right? So air. So, one of the challenges, though, with an air sign is the potential for us to scatter our energy and our focus because it's everywhere, right? We can jump from one thing to another, and never coming back. I found myself doing this yesterday, which I'm already a Gemini, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to do it anyway. But I was trying to do one project and get it done. But then I got an email from somebody about something, and I went, okay, I better answer that email first. And then I went, where was I? And then I jumped into something else, and I'm going back and forth. All of you are going to have that potential, right? Focusing on one thing at a time can be very difficult over the next year, especially when there are so many interests and so many activities and so many interruptions potentially that can happen through media, through our phones, through our ideas that jump in our head and we want to take action on them. So it's going to be very important for us to overcome that challenge by prioritizing and managing our time effectively. Not an easy ask for Gemini energy, but something we absolutely will have to take under consideration. Superficiality is another thing that we have to watch out for. The quick adaptable nature of Gemini energy can sometimes lead to just a superficial understanding of what's going on, because it's moving on to the next thing so quickly. There's not a lot of time left, or not even a lot of will, or a desire to get to the depth of things, right? So we'll have to be very careful that that if we're discovering, our new topics or something new for us, that likely we're going to have a superficial knowledge of it. So it would be very important for us not to present ourselves as experts on something unless you've really gone to the depth and become an expert on something, right? So it's great to explore diverse topics. Make sure you delve into the deeper subjects that truly matter to you. so that you can gain a comprehensive understanding and then share appropriately with other people. In other words, don't present yourself as an expert on something that you've only, delved this far into, right? If you've gone deeper into it, then that's a different story. Overindulgence in information. This is another potential challenge because so much information is available. Is it true? There's another possible issue coming up. There's a risk of overloading ourselves on data without properly assimilating that data within us, right? It'd be like just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. But if we don't integrate those facts into knowledge, it doesn't really become knowledge, right? It just sits on the surface and is just like a data. Like I can come back with your birth date, but what does that mean, right? So we have to practice discernment during this time, um, uh, in consuming the news, in consuming the information, and then about what we share with others. Right? It's gonna be really a test for us over this next year, and it's interesting to note that this is occurring in an election year, and it's not just the USA. I'm sure other, world, nations are having elections. And of course, the election cycle is filled always with information and misinformation. But how do we discern what's right and what isn't? What is truth and what isn't? So we want to, at least initially, just have this superficial idea of what's being said. And then if it piques our interest, then we can go deeper into that particular area and look for the deeper truth. In other words, don't take what people say at face value because we don't know. Do they know this much or do they know this much? Right? So be careful, be discerning. All right. Now, what can we be? What are the activities or the energies? How should we be taking? What should we be doing? Let's put it that way. What should we be doing for this next year? And there's a lot of things, right? Travel and exploration is first on my list. Plan trips to new destinations, whether they're local or international, it doesn't matter. Like, I have been wanting to go to Mount St. Helens forever. The last time I was in Mount St. Helens was in 1984. Mount St. Helens was the volcano that erupted in 1980 here in the state of Washington. So fairly local for me. It's still a very long drive, but still, localish. Um, I was there in 1984 because I was escaping the Los Angeles Olympics, which is I lived down there then. And, my sister and I, we and my oldest daughter, who was only 18 months at the time, we drove up here to Washington, and we stopped at Mount St. Helens. Well, that's been 40 years ago. I haven't stopped there since, despite driving by it all the time I go to Oregon. So, maybe that's a location I might wanna go to. It's fairly local. But don't forget too that Jupiter is expansive and wants the international travel. So, what internationally might you want to do? Traveling can bring new perspectives and stimulate our intellectual growth as we expand our connection to other people and other places. And of course, learning and education, enroll in courses, take workshops, participate in seminars, engage in self study, pursue certifications in areas of interest. But again, balance that with the perfectionistic streak that you might be experiencing, that I need to know more or I can't do what I need to do without knowing more. Don't fall into the trap of too much education or education overload, but pursue those topics that are of interest to you, right? Don't hold yourself back from that. Networking and socializing, of course, these are ways to expand yourself, expanding your social network, attending events, maybe, being more engaged socially, joining clubs, definitely engaging in community activities, perhaps. Networking can lead to new opportunities and new collaborations. So we don't want to cut ourselves off from those things. We want to be engaged with those things. And then communication projects. Maybe it's time for you to start that blog that you've always wanted to write about, right? The subject that you know a lot about. It's funny that that comes up because I worked with a friend yesterday, day before yesterday. The days are all running into one another right now, on upgrading my blog on my website because I've never been happy with it. And thank you very much, Amy, for helping me get it into shape because I intend to write more blog posts. And I didn't like the way it looked on my website, so I wasn't writing them. That's kind of me shooting myself in my foot, but that's what I was doing. Podcasting, exactly what I'm sitting here doing today. Maybe it's time for you to get your words out to the world, maybe starting a YouTube channel, writing more articles or give presentations, share your ideas with a broader audience. You all are brilliant. You are all geniuses in your own right, in whatever way it is that you're the genius. Why not share what you know with other people? Right? I know a set of twins out there who are very much about trains. Wouldn't it be interesting to share what you know on a blog or in a podcast? I could see my two twins there, Terry and Teddy, doing a podcast on trains. Boom, idea. Right? Got to think about those kinds of things. Creative ventures. This is a time for enhanced creativity. Explore your hobbies, writing, painting, music, whatever it is, dance, poetry. Gemini's influence here can really inspire artistic expression in your creative projects, whatever they are, especially though if they are creative writing or expression of something, right? So, big deal. It is a big deal. Oh, I thought you said brains. No, Teddy, I said trains because you two are train freaks. You two know more about trains than I ever wanted to know in my life. And maybe it's time to share that with the world because people seem to be interested in trains for God knows what reason. But it's also a Gemini thing, right? It's Gemini because it's a travel conveyance. Perfect theme. Thematically, it works. Okay. Now, 841. So let's go through quickly what it means for each of the signs, and then we'll do some uh, charts. So if you are someone that wants me to look at your chart, now is the time to say me, me, me. Okay. Aries, focus on learning new skills and enhancing your communication. Networking for you can lead to significant opportunities. So take up the cause, right? By staying mindful of the potential challenges, though, and balancing your enthusiasm with practicality, you can make the most of this exciting and expansive time. This is growth in your personal and professional uh, um, sectors of your life. So what's growing? Taurus, pay attention to financial matters and find new ways or explore new ways of increasing your income or increasing your security of what it is that makes you feel comfortable. Explore the senses, become more wise about economic trends and your investments and how to put your money to work for you. Right? That would be the thing for you to learn. So you're expanding in financial growth and social opportunities. The invitation for you is to get outside of that comfort zone, right? To move into the Gemini sector. Gemini, this is your time to shine, right? Jupiter here is focusing on personal growth, new beginnings, and enhanced self-expression, and all of that is highlighting your ability to communicate and to share. So it is an opportunity for you to embrace your true self, your authentic self, and share those things that you really want to share with people. Be mindful of the potential challenges because especially hard for Gemini is this idea of scattering focus. Um, and Jupiter and its expansion here for Gemini at least can create a sense of too much talking, too much of a lot of things, right? Cancer, this is a period for introspection for you and spiritual growth. Explore your inner world and engage in meditation. Consider new spiritual practices. Jupiter's transit through Gemini brings a period of intellectual stimulation for you and emotional growth, right? Emotional growth as well. Personal expansion as well, that's part of it. With Jupiter's optimism and Gemini's curiosity, Cancer is poised for significant growth and fulfillment, emotional well being, right? The inner realms. Leo, expand your social circle, of course, right? Leo, the social butterflies. Actually, not the social butterflies, that's more Gemini, but the social connections. Get involved in your community, get involved in your social circle. Collaborative projects can be particularly rewarding for you at this point in time. And of course, because this is about expansion, you're expanding into that, expanding in ways to communicate in your community, in your work, or in your creative expression, right? How do I express myself creatively? Leos can make the most of this transformational period by embracing new experiences. Remember, Leo is a fixed sign. So, leaning into flexibility and adaptability, pursuing your passions, balancing social activities with personal time, a big deal for Leo. Virgo, also ruled by the planet Mercury, which is the same planet that rules Gemini. So we know there's communication involved here as well. But Virgo's ability for analysis and for being able to communicate the details of something is enhanced during this time, which can lead to career advancement and professional growth. It's a time perhaps for you Virgos to take on leadership roles in the world, pursue opportunities that require your brand of communication skills. But you still need to balance everything, right? You have to be able to balance Gemini's curiosity and flexibility with the Virgoan ability to analyze and to perfect, right? Okay. Libra, pursue higher education, travel, explore new ideas, new cultures. This is intellectual and philosophical growth for you. And Jupiter's transit through Gemini is going to bring this period of intellectual stimulation for you, social expansion for you. Libra's the sign of relationships. So expanding your reach, expanding your networks, as it were. Career opportunities might include networking for you. So, by embracing new opportunities and pursuing your passions and balancing your social activities with personal time, Libra can make the most of this period of Jupiter in Gemini. Scorpio. Now, this one will be interesting because Scorpio goes deep. Jupiter in Gemini, superficial. So, Scorpio's focus on the deep transformational energies and subjects can bring profound insights, but there's going to be a bit of a struggle for you Scorpios because what you want to do is dive like deep, right? And Gemini energy can feel very superficial to you. The Gemini and Scorpio are in a square to one another in the natural wheel of the zodiac. So there's always a challenge here. Um, so this is a new opportunity for you to pursue width, not just depth, right? So Scorpio, take a big, wider, get the wide lens camera, not the focused camera, and see things in a bigger perspective. So you're balancing depth with the expansive energy of Gemini and avoiding overwhelm, right? Scorpio can make the most of this dynamic action by not getting overwhelmed, by wanting to take everything deep. Sagittarius, the opposite sign of Gemini. By opposition, Jupiter will be impacting you. Enhance your relationships through open communication, and mutual understanding comes along with that. Right? For mutual understanding, you have to step down off of your soapbox sometimes, Sagittarius. Partnerships, both personal and professional, are enhanced and can flourish with communication that's open, honest, and two-way. Listening, talking, listening, talking, right? Um, this is a time for you to balance your expansive vision with attention to detail. You are a natural. Jupiter is a natural ruler of Sagittarius. So there's an affinity here for this transit for you. So ability to see the big picture, and now you're going to have to be able to bring those in as details. So I have this big goal, but what's the steps that I need to take to get to where I want to go? So this transit is going to encourage you to see both the forest and the trees. Capricorn, improve your daily work habits and routines. I know that sounds dead sexy, doesn't it? But by focusing on efficiency and productivity and learning new skills that enhance your professional life, Jupiter brings rewards and recognition and perhaps promotion, right? Elevating your life. By embracing flexibility, however, remember Saturn rules Capricorn. It's a planet that takes us into kind of this rigid way of being. So you're going to have to embrace flexibility, Capricorn, pursue learning opportunities, things that you might not have thought about in terms of what you could learn. So you're balancing your disciplined nature with the openness to new experiences, and that will be your balancing act. Potentially, you could scatter energy very easily or get caught up in focusing too tightly on one thing. So you're going to have to balance both focus and bigger focus during this transit. Aquarius, engage in creative projects and hobbies. This is a time to express yourself if you're an Aquarian artistically, explore new avenues of creativity. Jupiter's transit through Gemini offers the Aquarius sun a period of intellectual expansion, social growth, and creative exploration. Again, a fixed sign, so must need to be more flexible in your creative expression. Aquarians can make the most of this dynamic period by balancing that professional focus with your personal focus. So you want to be able to grow both the group and the individual, right? That's the balancing point for you. Um, this can be a time for you of intellectual and social advancement. Pisces focuses on home and family, engaging in enhancing your living environment and your connection to those closest to you, the family bonds. Jupiter's transit here can cause you to be more expansive in a creative and imagination sort of way, like your imagination already knows no bounds. And now the tendency is to keep that growing ever bigger and bigger. So you're going to have to balance those imaginative ideas with actual engagement in the practical world. So don't just live in that imagination. Don't just live up there in the idea realm. You got to actually take steps to bring the ideas into reality in order to make the most of this particular transit. All right. So let's see here. Um, going back. Pauline volunteers. Jacqueline, Tyler, right? Says that Teddy says Scorpio. I'm not sure what you mean by that. TD Hawk, I am Leo Sun, Aquarius rising, Moon Libra. Gemini is in my fifth house of creativity, joy, and fun, love, and romance. How exciting for you. But I'm also seeing Gemini in my fourth house with the North Node. Don't understand it's shown in both houses. Okay, so some charts are houses are in Placidus or in another sign that actually, or another system that splits the signs or splits the houses. I don't like that, so I use whole sign. So for me, when I look at a chart, everything that's in Gemini is in Gemini. It's not as in the house that Gemini occupies. It's not split between two houses. It makes it so incredibly difficult to try to understand the true impact of, let's say, Jupiter in Gemini, if it's split between two houses. It's just I don't do it. So if Gemini is on your fifth house, Gemini is in my fifth house, then all those planets that are in Gemini are in that fifth house and pertain to love, romance, creativity, joy, creative expression, um, taking risks, right? So, all right. Pauline, I am going to take a look. Let me get to um, Pauline's chart. Just one moment. And Pauline, I hope I can share your chart if you don't mind, so that others can see what it is that we are talking about. And let's see, what do I have you under? Blinner? It's Traby. Uh, pop, pop, pop. Pauline, there you are. Good. So as soon as I get the chart up, Pauline, I will share. We'll take a look at where Gemini is. I know you're a Sagittarian, so it should be really interesting for you as the planet Jupiter will be transiting across from your sun. And okay, let me go back here and share my screen. There we go. So, Pauline, as we said, you are a Sagittarian, and the Sagittarius part of your chart is here on the fifth house of the chart. So, Jupiter will be transiting over here in Gemini in the 11th house. And you have no planets in the 11th house. This almost feels to me for you, Pauline, like a forced entry into the social scene. Like creating new connections with groups, elevating your networks, your social media, however that looks for you. I mean, I'm not saying you have to use Facebook or things like that, but somehow you're enhancing your connections, your network. And of course, that is going to bring Jupiter into an opposition, although not until next year, with the sun and also your natal Mercury. So, for you, what I would say here is take a look at what your hopes and dreams or your goals might be as far as how you want to be in relationships that include friendships or associations, clubs and groups, etc. Do they really enhance your life or do they not? If they are not enhancing, if they are difficult, or if they are not working, or that you don't feel good within them, you need to let those go and open up to creating avenues of connection with new people. And that will be a big focus for you for uh, the year from now until June 9th of 2025, when Jupiter actually moves into Cancer. Okay. So that gives you an idea. Let's go back to StreamYard after Pauline, TD Hawk. I don't know if I have your birth information. Um, so you might need to send that to me. JLo, let's take a look at your chart while I'm waiting to see what's going on with TD Hawk because I know I have yours. Let's see. Jacqueline Lopez. And then Jacqueline Tyler, I will get to yours. JLo, Gemini is, oh, you have Gemini on your first house. So this is huge because for you, this is very personalized, and you have your South Node, your Venus, and your Ascendant all in Gemini. So here, if you guys can see, this is Gemini in her chart. And that means immediately Jupiter, as he moves in here tomorrow, might be stimulating some, relationships from the past, bringing back, because the South Node, remember, holds your gifts and your talents, but also your past relationships, anything from previous lifetimes to experiences earlier in this lifetime. Jupiter's bringing them up. So you are maybe taking a new look at your own personality, your own personage, and how you deal with life as a person, how you communicate, what are you focused on learning, all of these things coming up for you like right away, toot sweet. And then as Jupiter comes to Venus, that's an opportunity for a new relationship, perhaps new love interest. We'll see what happens here for you while the sun is transiting, or while Jupiter and the sun are transiting through Gemini. The ascendant won't get hit again until we get to late May or June of next year. But there will be a culmination point for you of energies that take you into a new way to express yourself, perhaps, or a new way to really to maybe express your authentic self out there in the world. And of course, you do have planets in Sagittarius. So by opposition, Jupiter will also oppose your North Node, bringing in perhaps some new energy. Your Neptune eventually will get hit as well in the seventh house. Ooh, that's also relationship, marriage, business partnerships, collaboration projects. So I see that maybe there's this opportunity for you to get involved in collaborations with others, but maintaining your own individuality within those collaborations. All right, hopefully that's helpful for you. And let's go to Jacqueline Tyler. And boom. Now I've got to go back here. Was that actually ever shared? Oh my goodness. I might not have shared my screen. Tell me, JLo, did you see it? Because now I'm thinking you didn't see it. Um, okay, Jacqueline, this is yours. And as we look at your chart, I'm going to describe yours verbally because I know that you are limited sight. For you, the sign of Gemini is on the eighth house, which is a house of sex, death, and rebirth, i.e., transformation. So you are experiencing a year of transformation coming up. As the sun is there now, Venus and Jupiter will enter into Gemini with Mercury following them. So a lot of energy is focused here on the energy of transformation. Now, this house also represents other people's money. And this is money that you get from investments or from taxes or government grants and things like that. So if you're expecting maybe a bump up in income from anything that you've invested in, it's a distinct possibility. There's a fortunate quality here, and as a Sagittarian yourself, of course, Jupiter will oppose your natal Venus, your natal Sun, as time goes on in the house of earnings, the second house of money and self worth. So we might see the need for you to elevate your self worth throughout this particular year. It seems to be a big deal for you that you were here maybe to really learn about. Um, Having confidence in yourself, really seeing yourself as worthy of receiving and of being abundant. And this year might mark the transformation for you toward that particular way of being. I think that bodes well for you. But transformation for some people is easy, and for others, it is not. So you might have to evaluate how willing you are to do what needs to be done in order to be more worthy. Lo says, "Thank you." Yeah, the chart wasn't up. I'm sorry. But you can look it up because she knows her chart. Okay. TD Hawk. The chart is not being shown. Oh, that was Lo. Sorry, wrong one. TD Hawk, have just met some new musicians to sing with and have started a new line of jewelry designs in my jewelry work. Also developing a volunteer program to help hospice patients with their gardens. So creative and so self-expressive, right? All fifth house energies um, that are impacting your destiny, because I think you said your north node was there. And now by transit, you have several planets getting ready to come through there, and none the least of which is Jupiter for the next year, enhancing all of that for you. So, very, very good year for you. It's a very good year for everyone. I don't want anybody to think that I think we all have lots to learn this year as Jupiter graces Gemini with its passage through the sign. And there is still more yet that I want to share with you because while Jupiter is transiting through Gemini, it is also transiting through the throat center of our human designs. I do not have time to dig into that today, but I will likely have a video up on that soon for you to take a look at because all of the throat centers that are Gemini throat centers will all be activated from contribution where it is right now, are needing to find the pathway for our own personal contribution to the world to tomorrow, tomorrow night and into Sunday, moving into the gate 20 called the gate of patience, but also where our power in our message is uh, coming through. So we'll talk about that later. Monday being a holiday, I won't be on air. If I have a chance, though, I may record a broadcast and put that up. So be checking your Facebook or your YouTube to see if a broadcast is up for Monday. It won't be live, it'll be a recording. And I'm not even sure if I'll have time to get to that. In the meantime, have a wonderful weekend. Take care, everybody. Embrace the optimism of Jupiter and Gemini. Bye for now.